Gender Bias by Sudha Murthy. It was long time ago. I was young and bright, bold and idealistic. I was in the final year of my master's course in computer science at the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, then known as the Tata Institute. Life was full of fun and joy. I did not know what helplessness or injustice meant. It was probably the April of 1974. Bangalore was getting warm and gulmohars were blooming at the IISc campus. I was the only girl in my postgraduate department and was staying at the ladies' hostel. Other girls were pursuing research in different departments of science. I was looking forward to going abroad to complete a doctorate in computer science. I had been offered scholarship from universities in the US. I had not thought of taking up a job in India. One day, while on the way to my hostel from our lecture hall complex, I saw an advertisement on the notice board. It was a standard job requirement notice from the famous automobile company Telco, now Tata Motors. It stated that the company required young, bright engineers, hardworking and with an excellent academic background, etc. At the bottom was a small line, "Lady candidates need not apply." I read it and was very upset. For the first time in life, I was up against gender discrimination. Though I was not keen on taking up the job, I saw it as a challenge. I had done extremely well in academics, better than most of my male peers. Little did I know then that in real-life academic excellence is not enough to be successful. After reading the notice, I went fuming to my room. I decided to inform the topmost person in Telco's management about the injustice the company was perpetrating. I got a postcard and started to write, but there was a problem. I did not know who headed Telco. I thought it must be one of the Tatas. I knew JRD Tata was the head of the Tata Group. I had seen his pictures in newspapers. Actually, Sumant Mulgaonkar was the company's chairman then. I took the card, addressed it to JRD, and started writing. To this day, I remember clearly what I wrote. The great Tatas have always been the pioneers. They are the people who started the basic infrastructure industries in India, such as iron and steel, chemicals, textiles, and locomotives. They have cared for higher education in India since 1900, and they were responsible for the establishment of the Indian Institute of Science. Fortunately, I study there. But I am surprised how a company such as Telco is discriminating on the basis of gender. I posted the letter and forgot about it. Less than 10 days later, I received a telegram stating that I had to appear for an interview at Telco's Pune office at the company's expense. I was taken aback by the telegram. My hostel mates told me that I should use the opportunity to go to Pune free of cost and buy them the famous Pune saris for cheap. I collected 30 rupees each from everyone who wanted a sari. When I look back, I feel like laughing at the reason for my going, but back then they seemed good enough to make the trip. It was my first visit to Pune, and I immediately fell in love with the city. To this day, it remains dear to me. I feel as much at home in Pune as I do in Hubli, my hometown. The place changed my life in so many ways. As directed, I went to Telco's Pimpri office for the interview. There were 6 people on the panel, and I realized then that this was a serious business. "This is the girl who wrote to JRD," I heard somebody whisper as soon as I entered the room. By then I knew for sure that I would not get the job. The realization abolished all fears from my mind, so I was rather cool while the interview was being conducted. Even before the interview started, I reckoned the panel was biased, so I told them, rather impolitely, "I hope this is only a technical interview." They were taken aback by rudeness, and even today I am ashamed of my attitude. The panel asked me technical questions, and I answered all of them. Then an elderly gentleman with an affectionate voice told me, "Do you know why we said lady candidates need not apply? The reason is that we have never employed any ladies on the shop floor. This is not a co-ed college, this is a factory. When it comes to academics, you are a first ranker throughout. We appreciate that, but people like you should work in research laboratories." I was a young girl from a small town, Hubli. My world had been a limited place. I did not know the ways of large corporate house and their difficulties, so I answered, but you must start somewhere. Otherwise, no woman will ever be able to work in your factories. Finally, after a long interview, I was told I had been successful. So this was that the future had in store for me. Never had I thought I would take up a job in Pune. I met a shy young man from Karnataka there. We became good friends, and we got married. It was only after joining Telco that I realized who JRD was, the uncrowned king of the Indian industry. Now I was scared, but I did not get to meet him till I was transferred to Bombay. One day, I had to show some reports to Mr. Mulgaker, our chairman, who we all knew as SM. I was in his office on the first floor of Bombay House when, suddenly JRD walked in. That was the first time I saw Apro JRD. Apro means R in Gujarati. This was the affectionate term by which people at Bombay House called him. I was feeling very nervous, remembering my Postcard episode. SM introduced me nicely. That's what his close associates called him. This young woman is an engineer, and that too a postgraduate. She is the first woman to work on the telco shop floor. JRD looked at me. I was praying they would not ask me any question about my interview or the postcard that preceded it. Close to 50% of the students in today's engineering colleges are girls. And there was women on the shop floor in many industry segments. I see these changes, and I think of JRD. If it all time shops and asks me what I want from life, I would say I wish JRD were alive today to see how the company he started has grown. He would have enjoyed it wholeheartedly.